What's up, everyone? The Goldens have entered paradise, and so has all of the chaos. We've got so much to talk about, so welcome to your Bachelor in Paradise breakdown. Right before we get started, if you are new around here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I'll be covering Bachelor in Paradise all season long, and you do not want to miss a recap or review, so make sure you hit the subscribe button. Also, hit the like button. As a smaller content creator, it really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm, so something as simple as just clicking that like button really goes a long way. Let's get to the breakdown. It feels perfect to start off this video with the shock value of the last rose ceremony. Justin decided to pick Susie and completely blindside Lexi in the process of doing so. He had gaslit her into oblivion, into believing that she was safe with him and that he was committed. We as viewers could completely see from a mile away that he was getting ready to jump back to Susie. But poor Lexi, man, she had to go through it, and we ended on a cliffhanger on the last episode. We're going into this one. Justin had walked off like a child and went to his hotel room, where he was kind of expressing the sadness at his decision. And it's crazy because it was, not to say his sadness wasn't valid, but again, I feel like it's that tunnel vision. I don't really think he cares that he's made Lexi sad. He's only thinking about how he's sad. So naturally, he decides to quit Bachelor in Paradise. With Susie leaving in the process, he has to re-offer his rose to somebody. Surely, maybe as a peace offering, as an olive branch, he would give it to Lexi. No, he gives it to Jill. Now, while I am thrilled that Jill gets another shot at love because I think she's lovely, and I understand because Justin is a friend, Lexi got shafted there harder than probably anybody I've seen on a dating show in my life. I haven't seen a lot of dating shows, but that was brutal. I'm sure there's been way worse stuff out there, but that was brutal, and I feel sorry for Lexi, and Justin should be ashamed for the way he treated Lexi in that one. Now, the first thing we're going to be talking about tonight is one of the key storylines of the episode, which was Andrew, Bailey, and Jeremy's kind of triangle that was going on there. Wow. The episode kicked off with a bang when Jeremy expressed that he regrets not giving the rose to Susie. Okay, sir. That was an eye opener because he had gone back forth on Bailey all night, and he had only said that he regrets not giving it to Susie because Bailey decided to go on a date with Andrew. I don't know this Andrew guy. Like I said, I've only seen The Bachelor in Paradise for 2 weeks. This is my third episode. This is my third episode right now. Bailey decides to go on this date with Andrew, much to Jeremy's annoyance. Can we just go back to the other day when Jeremy went on a date and Bailey was actually secure enough in herself to be like, yeah, you go do that. And then the second that Bailey goes on a date, Jeremy's sense of entitlement comes to the forefront and saying, you know, I just gave you a rose to stay. Why are you doing this? Jeremy's true colours are beginning to shine, and they are not as pretty as I imagined them to be. Bailey, again, I feel like the connection she has with people are very surface level, but I feel like she is more committed to Jeremy than Jeremy is committed to her. He seems like at the slightest bit of struggle, he is ready to jump ship, and that is the sign of a red flag immediately. Now, while Bailey did end up coming back to Jeremy as the episode went on, it kind of left something to be thought about, because I feel like moving forwards now, that relationship is just, there's a crack right down the middle, and it's only going to be a matter of time before it goes. I didn't realise that the party didn't start until the Goldens got there. We saw the entry of 10 Golden Bachelors, and I was grinning from ear to ear. We saw April, Leslie, Captain Kim, RJ, Keith, who calls himself the girl dad, I've got in my notes right now. I felt like that was key to put down. Natasha, who I love. Like, she's so wonderful. I think Natasha's amazing. Kathy, Jack, and CK. I am obsessed. I am seriously obsessed. And the thing that caught my eye immediately was that Natasha and RJ were not waiting around. Natasha was sitting on RJ's lap on the boat already, and when they got there to Paradise and Spencer was asking Natasha who she's got her eye on, she was saying, you know, she casually just dropped, you know, I was sitting on RJ's lap on the way in here, and Spencer was like, same bro, same. That was just unhinged. I love The Bachelors and The Bachelors from the Golden Bachelor, and to me, they're living their best life. I loved all the montages of them in the pool and the floaties. They seem to, in my opinion, I don't know if I'm going to get flack for this, but they are more entertainment for me than all of the younguns combined. Did I just say younguns? Am I 67? No, I'm 23. I can't say younguns for at least another 40 years. Bad tongue. Oof. After the Goldens had settled in, Jesse, our host, showed up to tell them that the girls will be in charge of giving roses out at the ceremony tonight. And he left with one tagline that said, "We are not expecting you to cross the generational line." And then there was a pause of silence for a second, and then April, Miss April, she's a hoot. April turns around and goes, "Unless you want to." That was foreshadowing, if I'd ever seen it. April's she's an old catch, isn't she? She's definitely had a share of fun in her time. That's the vibe I get from her. I get that vibe from most of the Goldens. Not all of them, but most of them. They have lived. They've got many experiences. A lot of them sound very dirty, and they have invigorated this show for me. Sending them into Paradise has just completely... I feel like that was my favourite episode so far, simply because of the Goldens. I'm just smiling right now, just thinking about them and seeing all the chaos that they're going to get up to. I feel like watching the young people, I've been kind of going all week long, and it's just so frustrating to watch them, and I feel like there's so much toxicity with the young people. Throwing a few... That's not to say that old people can't be toxic, because that's definitely not the case. But I'll tell you what, they seem to have their priorities straight way more, and they seem way less full of themselves than the young'uns do. And once again, I need to tell myself, Tom, you can't say young'uns for another 40 years. Wait until you're in that retirement home. Alex is still desperately looking for love in Paradise, and let me tell you folks, that lady is an absolute gem. She is one hell of a girl who is authentic, down to earth, funny, unique, quirky, and it seems like the men want nothing to do with it. It seems like they would rather go for the people who... Not all of them, but I think there's a few girls in there that are very kind of surface level and don't really have a lot of personality, in my opinion. But I feel like that's just testament once again to the guys really not having their together. I feel like they are so involved in themselves that they don't even know what they want and they don't know how to give it. Wow, I really hit the nail on the head. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back there. That was insight and a half. Yeah, I think Alex is such a gem, and I really am rooting for her to find love. And when Andrew showed up, she seemed so giddy and excited, and then Andrew came over for a conversation, and then he went and took Bailey on the date like we had discussed earlier. Now, while Bailey and Andrew ended up kissing on the date, it didn't seem like there was a lot of sparks. They definitely got intense with each other. They were rubbing all sorts on each other, and they had their feet in some coffee. You know, just your average date. It didn't really hit off for them. And then meanwhile, we've got back in Paradise. Alex is talking to Jonathan and saying, "Hey bro, you're friend zoned." That was the short way of saying it. She was a lot more eloquent and said it with caringness and kindness, but he's being friend zoned. Jonathan had an episode and a half, and we're about to talk about that. With Jonathan in the friend zone, he had to turn his interests in another direction than Alex. He could have taken a play out of the Justin book and chased her for eternity to the point where it looks a little bit creepy, but he didn't. He went back to Jill. Way to make a girl feel special. He went back to Jill, who he had a date with in episode 2, and it was very awkward. They kind of hit it off on the date, but then nothing really came of it, and Jonathan going back to Jill kind of felt weird. It's degrading, it's disrespectful. I just think nobody should be anyone's second choice. I think you're doomed from the off if you're second choice, and you need to have more self-respect for yourself if you accept that. Looking at you, Zoe. Jill, on the other hand, though, that girl has some self-respect. But Jill and Jonathan finally talked to each other, and Jonathan got defensive. I've been talking these past couple episodes about how I feel like there's a facade with Jonathan. I think That's not to say he's the devil or a bad person or anything like that, but I don't see the real Jonathan when I look at him. I see somebody who is, I feel like, trying to be the nice guy and trying to be. I feel like he's masking. And I don't know exactly what's under there, but I feel like some of the real Jonathan spilled out in this episode. I feel like Jill was trying to get clarity on where Jonathan's head was about going from the date last week to kind of, we're done here, to all of a sudden we're talking again. And then Jonathan did what a lot of these guys are doing. The walls went up, and then all of a sudden it becomes, stop coming on so strong to me. Why are you being so harsh? Jonathan kind of did the reverse of that, though, and kind of projected onto Jill and said, why are you shutting down on me? Why are you shutting down on me? This man has shot himself in the foot. And I think everybody in Paradise knows it. The problem I have with a lot of these fellas, not all of them, but the young'uns, I'm team old time, I'm in the Florida retirement home with these folks. You gotta have respect for a woman. It might sometimes sound like an old-fashioned concept, but not just a woman, but anyone. You gotta have respect for a man, a woman, whoever, whatever your gender is. Have respect for people. That's a relationship. That's the key of a relationship. Respect is at its core, and I feel like so many of these young men are like lacking so much respect. And also, you've got to leave room for your partner or for the potential person that you're going to date or getting to know to also have feelings. You can't shut down and start projecting and say, no, you, every single time somebody comes to you with concern or emotions or feelings, because guess what? You're not ready for dating if that's the case. And I'm seeing that as a pattern every single episode. I saw somebody in the comment section yesterday who said, Tom, you're finally understanding these shows now, and you see the problem with them. And it's the fact that I think a lot of these guys are very emotionally unavailable and don't really know how to deal with emotions, and as a result, these relationships don't end up working out. And Jonathan completely shot himself in the foot, and going into the rose ceremony in the next episode, I think he's a goner. A second arrival of this episode was Shawn, who was from Charity's season. I recognise Charity's name not because I've seen The Bachelor before, because like I said, I've only seen 3 episodes of Bachelor Nation so far, but I recognise Charity's name from Dancing with the Stars, similar to Hannah Brown. Do they do a lot of Bachelor people on Dancing with the Stars? Because that's so cool. They must produce a lot of personalities, because I remember Hannah Brown on Dancing with the Stars, and I also remember Charity. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I remember those too. But anyways, Jill got the date with Shawn, and they really hit it off, and it finally feels like Jill is getting some respect. She can move on from Jonathan, who is kind of blocking up and projecting onto her. Go get somebody who gives you respect, and I feel like Shawn might be that guy. It's too soon for me to go, yeah, 100%, that's marriage, that's kids, they're going to get happily, you know, they're going to live until death do us part. I don't know about that yet. I don't know about that with any of these people, if I'm being honest, apart from the Goldens, because they're pretty old, but I love them. But yeah, I think that was nice to see Jill actually. That was the first time I feel like Jill had a good time in Paradise, and she's been a good soul so far. She's funny, she's humorous, she's quirky, and Jonathan has kind of just been a bit like, with her. Go to Shawn, get away from Jonathan. That's my advice. I want to say how obsessed I was with the I Know What You Did Last Summer segment. I've never seen that movie myself, but I am a big fan of horror. I love Halloween, I love Scream, I love all those kind of things. You know, where they just do rinse and repeat in every single movie, but somehow manage to give you a good time every single time. That's why I love that, and it's actually making me want to watch I Know What You Did Last Summer. So damn you, product placement, you worked on Tom this time, but yeah, well done. 1 point to you. Every single person in Paradise had to give in one of their secrets. And these secrets ranged from something like, I swapped my name on a paper when I was in school to get a better grade, to I blamed my tooting on a boy when I was in school every single time, to some heavier stuff. And the gang had to try and figure out basically who had said each one, but more importantly, which one was the most shocking secret. And I've got some of the ones that stood out to me right here. Dale has an OnlyFans for his feet, I believe. I think that was confirmed, right? Yeah. Somebody hooked up with somebody 25 years older than them, Could have been one of the Goldens, you know, in 1842. I'm joking, actually. I need to stop with the old jokes. Somebody found 500k in cash and kept it. But then, here was the kicker. Somebody said, I slept with another person in my room while my partner was in another room in the same house. Turns out, it was one of the Goldens. Miss Kathy, you are a minx. Kathy did indeed step forward and admit in front of the group that it was her, and therefore she received an advantage in Paradise. She was given the keys to the VIP suite in Paradise, and she invited Keith for a little bit of action. Now, while the action was only eating strawberries and drinking champagne, they had a lovely old time. I would say, as far as old-timers go and being, you know, of retirement age, I'd say interlocking hands and drinking champagne, oof, you might as well call that third base. While Kathy and Keith had a fantastic night in the suite and get hot under the collar with those strawberries and champagne, April was actually at the centre of the majority of the Goldens. She hit it off massively with Jack, and they were the first golden kiss of the season. They were hitting it off in the pool. They're lovely. I love Jack. Jack's awesome. Like I said, April's lived 1,000 lifetimes. She's chaos. I can't wait to see what she does for the rest of the season. I hope she's there the whole time. Jack is my wholesome king. I think he's lovely. Really nice guy. Cares about April. Something I'm noticing the old timers do more than the young ones is actually tell these women how beautiful they are on the regular and hype them up and say really lovely things. Called me old-fashioned, but I love that. I think it's important to do that and make your partner feel special because they are. You know, that's it's not a case of doing it for a reason. It's, you know, if you really want to build something with this person, make them feel like the only person in the world. That's what I say, and because all these feelings with the young ones feel a little bit inauthentic sometimes, whereas I feel like the old timers are speaking from the heart, and that means a lot to me. April was then later in the evening approached by Captain Kim. Why is he called Captain Kim? Somebody give me context there. And he was rubbing her shoulders. I talked about the champagne and strawberries, which was third base. Captain Kim got to fourth base in front of Jack. Those rubbing of the shoulders, that's pretty much engagement when it comes to old timers. That was, ooh. April and everybody, all the old timers, started to head to bed at 9 p.m. And Jack was worried about the fact that Captain Kim's gotten his hands now into April's shoulders. But that's not where it ends with April. April says to Jonathan, who is now down out on his luck, she walks past him when he's by himself and goes, "If you need me, second door on the right." On face value, it's a joke. But I think April, maybe what we call in slang a cougar. I think she might be after a little bit of a toy boy, a little younger man to, you know, keep the blood going. I think April is after Jonathan. And looking at the tease at the end of the episode, we went out and was asked by the producers, Jonathan was asked, "Do you see yourself pairing up with April?" And he wasn't against it. He was not against it, and he was talking about how in Paradise, age knows no bounds. What a way to end the episode. That is all of your Bachelor in Paradise breakdown for today, folks. I thoroughly hope you all enjoyed watching. For me, this show is getting better and better every single episode, especially with the Goldens in now. I will admit, I think with those first two episodes, I was really enjoying it, but it kind of felt a little bit rinse and repeat with the young people not really knowing how to bare their souls to somebody, so as a result, it kind of felt like every single connection was baseline. With these old-timers, they're there for a good time, not a long time, and they are ready to make chaos, which I adore. Thank you so much, producers, for sending in the Goldens, because you have just saved this show for me. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this recap and review. Let me know what your thoughts were on the episode, and let me know if you have any suggestions in terms of the structure of my new Bachelor in Paradise breakdowns. Figuring a lot out right now. I'm in a new space than I was last year when I was recording, and yeah, I'm just kind of taking everything one day at a time and figuring out what works best on this channel. And figuring out the structure of a new show I'm covering is also key to that. So if you've got any suggestions or recommendations, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know in the comment section below. But thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope that you're all staying safe, staying positive, staying healthy out there. Got to remember that. But don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, do all of that wonderful stuff. But until your next Bachelor in Paradise breakdown, I've been your host, Tom Vasey. Good night.